All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? What an improper time for my graphics driver to just want to install right now, but it can wait until after this chapter is done. Let's go ahead and get this started, shall we? Yes, there we go. Yo, peoples, Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to yet another iteration of me reading through My Hero Academia. Another My Hero Academia chapter reaction and review. Last we left off in chapter 352, Shoto revealed his super move, which was Great Glacial Aegir, which was basically like a heated fist that exploded like a frozen tundra as he put out all the fire that Toya outputted completely, and not only hit him and hit him square in the chest with it, but also completely froze the entire background behind him. Just endless ice, which was actually kind of awesome to see. Now, real quick, let me do this. If you guys want to follow along with me, you can either follow me along on the official Viz website, Shonen Jump website, or if you don't feel like doing that, then Manga Plus is a good alternative for you as well, because those are the official pages too. So, let's go ahead and get started with today's chapter, shall we? And it doesn't appear like we're going on break because it says the next one is in the next 7 days. So let's see what happens in this chapter. Ooh, we got a nice cover for Shoto here as it shows his ice side and his fire side. His hair's blazoned and wild in this colored cover page right here, but the ice side is cold, and then the fire side is on this side as well. And as he has like this phosphor over his body, one side it's all fire, but one part is blue and the other one is red, and other one is like orangish, like fiery color. Chapter 353, Endeavor. And it shows Shoto, who's holding Toya. And Toya is completely spent. And then Burning gets up and she says, "He's down. Dabi is down!" So that's one lieutenant that's completely out of commission for the villain side. And then it has the sidekicks getting up. Those who had to suffer through Toya's onslaught. One of them, and she says, "I can't imagine how painful that must have been, but he pulled it off. The boy did it! Shoto beat the blue flame!" And then it shows the other sidekicks taking on a Nomu that they've all been fighting, because it was Toya. It was Shoto. It was Toya there along with the Nomu, but now that Toya's been taken care of, the only thing left is the Nomu that went with him. And the sidekicks are saying, "Follow in Shoto's footsteps! This big guy's the last one standing. Overwhelm it with everyone we've got! We've got the advantage in numbers! Only because our block got the lucky draw back there. Think about Kunieda or Gashly. It'd be a totally different story if we were dealing with Tartarus' escapees like them. Since we got so lucky, we gotta spread some of that luck around and even the playing field." And then we get narration. The news from Kamino Ward's Ground Zero reached Tsukauchi's team in the command center. And then it shows All Might, who's looking on, and it looks like a tear drops out of his eye as he puts his head down saying, "Todoroki, kid." And then Tsukauchi comes up behind All Might and says, "It was a rocky start with Midoriya warping to the wrong spot, but this victory feels like a good omen. Spread the word, All Might." And then it cuts to Jaku Hospital ruins outside Gigantomachia's detainment facility, because apparently all of the what is it called? Heteromorphs? All of the villains that have like different physical quirks that make them look like creatures and stuff, they are all outside of Machia's detainment facility right now. All squads hurt. Jaku Hospital ruins outside Gigantomachia's detainment facility. All squads heard the good news. And then it cuts to Ashido along with Mineta and some other students as well, as they're staving off these villains trying to break Machia out. And then Mina says, "Sounds like Todoroki got the job done." And then we have Mount Lady, who's there saying, The way he got his head in the clouds had me worried for nothing. I love that kid. And then it has some villains who showed up saying, we had the sneak attack all set up. Why are they here already? And then it has someone in the background amidst all of these villains, and it has some dude with a mask and some sort of weird looking tube coming out of his mouth through his mask, and he says, it was all a ruse on their part, pretending to be scattered. Oh, maybe I should do a different accent. It was all a ruse on their part, pretending to be scattered and without unity. But they had several dozen heroes stationed here, prepared to go on the defensive. They must have foreseen that our detached force would try to steal back this powerhouse during the operation. However, they've squandered their resources. The era of liberation is at hand. These purveyors of falsehoods will be crushed beneath our boots. Just like that UA school teacher. Oh, this dude is referring to Midnight, who unfortunately lost her life when Makia came tearing out of the hideout way back when in order to get to where Shigaraki was. And it cuts to Mina in one panel, and she opens her eyes, and Kirishima jumps up right next to him saying, sorry I'm late. And she says, Red, the escort mission's done, Pinky. Let's do this, people. Our very own Todoroki showed everyone what a duty is. We gotta stay strong and hold this defensive line. Then we cut to the National Takoba Arena, and we got Sato there along with Ojiro and Seto. We'll have to celebrate his win when the battle's over. I remember people saying he'd be outmatched, and Seto doesn't say anything. Then we cut to up in the sky, UA's main building, as Shigaraki is still going ham in there. Bakugo says, didn't expect any less from you, Todoroki. Wow. Is this the first time he doesn't call him something like icy hot or anything like that? Is this the first time he's referring to Todoroki by his name? I can't remember. Someone will probably correct me if I'm wrong. But for him to say, didn't expect any less from you, Todoroki. And then it cuts to Fat Gum. Then it cuts to Fat Gum and what appears to be Aoyama. With with someone saying, considering this matchup, it's clear that the priority with those cages was splitting up only the primary fighters on our side. As for dealing with us dregs, you plan to improvise on the spot once in battle. On what basis, though? Trust? Hope, perhaps? Such things invisible to the eye coat this planet like an oppressive membrane. And then Fat Gum says, what are you, some kind of alien? This planet, you say? And then whoever this guy is, this villain that's in front of Fat Gum and the rest of them, because he looks like he can control plants a little bit. But Fat Gum says, what are you, some kind of alien? And then the guy says, this is about empirical utility and harm. None of those who've deceived him in the past have survived for long. Exceptions will not be tolerated. Because of Dictator's failure, my turn never came around. But now I can demonstrate my utility to All For One as one of his assassins. And we get introduced to Tartarus escapee Kunieda, who was actually what one of the sidekicks were referring to earlier in this chapter. And the dregs that I mentioned will all be coming after you, unceasingly, Yuga Aoyama, the Bat of Aesop. And then Aoyama says, merci. And then it cuts to President Mike saying, Shoto took Dobby down! Shoto took Dobby down! And then it cuts to Shoji. It cuts to Shoji, you know, the guy that has like the numerous arms and everything. It cuts to him saying, it was a cruel duty placed on him, but he stood tall and faced it anyway. As it shows him dodging away from what appears to be Spinner, because apparently Spinner's got a major upgrade. Spinner is now massive. Has he always had this ability? But it cuts to Spinner, who's like foaming at the mouth and the whites of his eyes are completely gone. And he says, Dabi, lost? No chance in hell. This has gotta be information warfare. There's gotta be information warfare. Yeah, that's all it is. And then it cuts back to Dabi in the tunnel, looking in the same tunnel with All For One and Spinner at the time, with Dabi saying, like I need any of that crap. And then Spinner says, he always had everything. A reason to live on. A goal. Power, too. Things I lacked. And then it cuts to Spinner screaming out loud, everything. His convictions could never fail him, right? They locked up Kurogiri, but we're taking him back in order to destroy the status quo. For Shigaraki's sake, for our sake, to demolish the system that oppressed us. And then it cuts to Shoji thinking, Todoroki, I'm so proud I made it into your class. And then it cuts back to the epicenter, ground zero, of where Shoto and everyone else is, and it cuts to Ida, who's there with Shoto now, with Shoto saying, your engine stalled, right? Sorry. And then Ida hugs him and kneels next to him and says, you have nothing to apologize for. And it shows the other heroes tending to Dabi right now. And then it cuts to one of the sidekicks who is holding Dabi saying, how's he still alive in this state? And then it cuts to like a shining... Then it cuts to like a shining light inside of Dabi. And then it cuts to the Gunga Mountain Villa ruins, with the narration says, and of course, word reached here too. And then word reached here too. And then it cuts to Endeavor, who's staring face to face with All For One, who says, what does that face imply? Affection? Grief? Then it cuts to Hawk saying, here it comes. Don't listen! Don't pay him any mind, Endeavor! And then it cuts to All For One saying, you refuse to take a good look at Toya, foisting the task onto little Shoto instead. That must have been your decision, right? And you justify that choice by being here. Heroes just have so much to protect, right? This is why you lose, number one. As it shows All For One bringing up numerous different quirks in his fingers. Like, each finger has like a different quirk coming out of it. So are we about to cut to All For One, Endeavor versus All For One now? Because in his pinky finger, he has like the multiple spurs that he used during his fight with All Might. Then he has like some sort of glowing energy in his ring finger, and then some sort of what looks to be like floating blades around his middle finger, and then his index finger is split as some sort of growth with a face at the end comes out of it. It's disgusting. And then lastly, his thumb turns into some sort of sludge. So it looks like it looks like All For One is preparing to fight, and that is the end of the chapter. Interesting. Yeah, okay, Blaziken, you said it was his first time. Look at the character growth on Bakugo. Can you just think about the character growth that Bakugo has had? He's slowly but surely starting to become like a more sociable person. Whereas he would always look down on people and call them insulting nicknames. He's now progressed to the point where he's able to call people by their names now. No more Icy Hot. He calls him Todoroki. No more just straight up Deku. He calls him Midoriya. It's like, Bakugo, we talk a lot about how Midoriya and how Shoto and how all these different types of character progression has happened throughout the series, but Bakugo has made some major strides as a character. A conceited dude that thought that his quirk was all he needed in order to become the new number one, and he didn't care about anyone else's feelings or what he said. But after all this time, the moment where he realized his mistake, apologizing to Midoriya after all this time, and seeing his progression as a character, to see him progress even more, even in this chapter, even though it's just like a short instance where he says, like, knew you had it in you, Todoroki. Not knew you had it in you, icy hot. So Bakugo has learned. Bakugo has made significant strides as an individual. Sure, he's still boisterous, but he's less self-centered than he was before. And he's actually starting to become more considerate of the people around him. Although it's not like majorly where he refers to everyone politely now. That's just not Bakugo. But little strides. Just little strides. And now we got Mina and Kirishima facing off against a whole bunch of villains as they try to break out Makia. Then we got Fat Gum and Aoyama, who's facing off against one of the Tartarus escapees. And from what we understand from earlier in this chapter, we were told that had it been one of Kunieda or Gashly, these two individuals, had it been Kunieda or Gashly that they were dealing with instead of Dabi, it would have been a completely different scenario. If they were dealing with someone other than Dabi, then this outcome would have been completely different from what one of these sidekicks says. Because they says, only because our block got the lucky draw back there. Think about Kunieda or Gashly. It'd be a totally different story if we were dealing with Tartarus escapees like them. Which means that despite all the destruction we've seen Dabi do, they are considering that they were better off facing off against Dabi than any one of the Tartarus escapees. Which means that whatever abilities that Kunieda or Gashly have, it greatly makes them a far larger threat than Dabi's, magma-level fire abilities. So whatever they can do, we're at a place where even Dabi's destruction is seen small scale in comparison to what these Tartarus escapees are like. But Kunieda, one of these Tartarus escapees, is face to face with Fat Gum and Aoyama. And he even says, actually, is that another one of these escapees? No, it must be someone else. But it cuts to Kunieda, and apparently he says, because of Dictator's failure, my turn never came around. But now I can demonstrate my utility to All For One as one of his assassins. And the dregs that I mentioned will all be coming after you unceasingly, Yuga Aoyama, the Bat of Aesop. Saying that all these dregs, all these people that are not All For One, will be coming after Aoyama simply because he disobeyed All For One and decided to go against him. Because he says, none of those who've deceived him in the past have survived for long. Exceptions will not be tolerated, which means that Aoyama, since he joined with all the rest of the heroes, he's pretty much set himself up to die from these assassins. And Kunieda says, like, we're going to come after you unceasingly. So this has got to be the battle where every single one of these Tartarus escapees gets put down. Not killed, but, put down in a way that they can't come after Aoyama again. Because they'll never stop going after him. It's like playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla and not burning that letter in time in order to keep those mercenaries from coming after you. They'll just come after you consistently. So this is that whole situation. But what we can know from this entire chapter is that I'm glad we finally saw the end of the resolution of Shoto versus Toya. We got introduced to a new Tartarus escapee as he's facing off against Fat Gum and Aoyama. We got Spinner, who apparently was blessed with a new quirk that allows him some sort of gigantification because he's far bigger than he ever was before, and he just can't contemplate the thought of Dabi losing. And not only that, but he has like a whole bunch of different heteromorphic quirk individuals as they try to break out Kurogiri. And then it cuts to Todoroki, and then it cuts to Shoji saying, I'm so proud I made it into your class. Then it cuts to Ida comforting Shoto. And then we come face to face with Endeavor facing off against All For One, and All For One preparing to face off against the number one. Still playing mind games, mind you. But we're not going on break from a chapter like this, which means that we get to see what happens in the next one. So either we cut to either one of the other fights that's going on, such as Himiko Toga versus Asui versus Sue and Uraraka. We cut to Midoriya still making his way over to where Shigaraki is. We cut to the fighting inside of UA's main floating fortress, where Shigaraki and everyone else is fighting, along with Bakugo and Mirko and all these other different fighters. Or we cut to Endeavor versus All For One. And we see where things go from here. Because at Gungan Mountain Villa Ruins, it's just a massive battlefield as everyone's fighting, but Endeavor's in the air along with Hawks and All For One, having a discussion with you, like I said, All For One having all these mind games. But we're just going to have to see where this chapter goes from here. All I know is we have to be nearing. I wouldn't say that we're going to be getting to the end of My Hero Academia soon, but this is the final stretch. This is the final stretch type arc, I would feel. Because how are you going to go any farther than this battle when All For One is present and Shigaraki, whose body has started to go beyond the capabilities of what having a quirk actually means? How do you even go farther than that? So we have to be entering into like the final big pivotal story moment of this entire series. That's just how I feel. But this is endgame territory. That's how I feel. But endgame, the final chapters that we get, it's still a long ways off. There's still many things to consider. There's still many things to go over. So it's going to be a hot minute. But I feel like this is going to be the final biggest arc that we get for My Hero. Unless Horikoshi decides to do like an aftermath type arc, and I could be wrong. But we just got to see. But that's all I got, ladies and gentlemen. Let me not keep you here any longer than I already have. You say sadly Blaziken? It just looks this way. Because everything that we've seen happen has led to this one big pivotal moment, and there's no indication that there's some underlying thing that's going to be an even bigger threat down the line. So this is pretty much the biggest threat that the series is going to give us. Shigaraki and All For One. There is no one far more dangerous than All For One in the entire world. He is the big bad, along with Shigaraki, with the purpose of Shigaraki only being to be a vessel for All For One to take over, so he can be basically perfect and then rule the world. So I don't see any bigger threat than All For One in the future, which means that once All For One and Shigaraki is brought down, that's it. And I don't know how I'm going to feel when My Hero Academia actually ends. Because this is probably going to leave a bigger hole in a void of series that I've been through, perhaps pretty much even bigger than Solo Leveling. But that's how I feel. We can discuss this another time. But overall, I enjoyed this chapter, and I hope you guys did as well. There's no One Piece. That will be next week. But I will go ahead and get started on my One Piece anime reaction, newest episode reaction. And then once I'm done, if there's still plenty of time within the day, I'll get right back on Nier Automata, and I hope to see you guys there as well. So that's all I got, ladies and gentlemen. I really do hope you all enjoyed my reaction to this. Like I said, if you guys want to follow along to what whatever I read, you can either go to the official Viz Shonen Jump site, which is where I read all of my reactions from, or you can go to Manga Plus, which is a secondary place, just in case you don't want to go to Viz. But I highly suggest that you go to Viz and read it from there. That's just my suggestion. But that's all I got, ladies and gentlemen, which I can say with, at the end of the day, all I can really say is, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed what you saw here today, then consider subscribing or even consider becoming a member, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later, peoples. Whew, what a day. It's actually been quite busy for me, but well, what a day.